Hey y'all, it is Moonlight Cowboy, and today we're going to be covering some easy custom beds. What do I mean by easy custom beds? Ones that shouldn't take you a half hour to make, or more than probably 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes for alignment's sake, because beds are meant to be fun. I threw that in there, trying to be a little bit funny with it. But as you can see in these examples here, beds can be cool. Like you can make some really cool custom beds that will stand out when people are visiting your camps or when you're filming them or what have you. So in today's tutorial, you're going to learn some really easy ways to do beds that will make your bedroom pop. And as you see in these examples, some of these beds we're actually going to cover today, like that one right there, and definitely that one there. That day bed I've used a lot. So before we get started, I just want to say thank you. This is my 6th year doing YouTube for Fallout 76, so I'm very blessed, and thank you for those of you who continue to watch my content. Hopefully you find it helpful. Well, let's get started. So here we have a vacant room. This is where I came up with the idea in the first place. I was kind of trying to make this room a little bit different and add a new life to that room for this camp. So if you notice here, I was able to slide this bed into this other bed no problem. And it's really easy to do. I'm just putting two beds next to each other of the same type, and I'm going to slide them into each other when they're broken. Not all beds do this, but this bed specifically is really good for this. I highly recommend the Mothman Cultist bed. It's fun. It works well with itself. Like you can slide it inside of itself. You can actually do a whole bunch of them inside of each other too, if you like that style. But it's very easy to work with. Yeah, and you can make it a little bit bigger for your space. You can do that with some of these other beds too, like this one right here. Same exact process, except it doesn't slide as well into itself. But as you see right there, with a little bit of finesse, we can get it in a little bit, about halfway, is that magic spot for that bed specifically. And you can do this with like I said, a few other beds, like the military cot is another one. And we're going to use that military cot merge for a different bed that we're going to do here a little bit later on. Now this doesn't work with every bed, unfortunately, as you are about to see with this bed. As you can see here in a second, I'm going to destroy the one bed, and I'm not going to be able to get it to slide into the other one, which is a shame because this American flag bed looks really cool when it's merged together. But that's okay. We're not going to let the bed beat us today. We're going to beat that bed. So in a second here, you're going to see how we're going to do this. I'm going to take this outside, right, so I can fight with this bed appropriately. All I'm doing is I'm putting these two beds next to each other. Notice I have a mat out now, and I use that mat and I put it on top of this other bed. So the bed itself, it needed a bigger spot to land on. Like it had a bigger landing hitbox. But then when I put it on the mat, it was fine. And now I'm just able to put the mat onto the other side of the bed and then merge the whole thing down into each other. And I really like this merge. Yeah, if done right, I did it a little quickly there, but if done right, you get the stars and stripes all the way across the bed, and I think that looks really cool. I've done this before in a couple of my builds. So here's one. I love making this bed, and I've done this before as well. This actually got a lot easier with the new Wrecking Ball perk. By the way, to those who have been saying, oh, hey, why don't you use the Wrecking Ball perk? I had a lot of tutorials backed up where I didn't, they were pre-done before that perk. So now all of the tutorials will be with the Wrecking Ball perk going forward, unless there's some crazy reason for me to use a flamethrower trap. Anyhow, what we're doing here is I'm merging these stash boxes. They could be anything. I like these stash boxes because I can use them for alignment, but I'm merging the beds into them. And notice I'm doing it on opposite sides here. Think of it like I'm building IKEA furniture, I think is the best way to put it. So you'll see in a second what I'm talking about, but I'm counting my clicks too when I'm merging these down. Like I believe that this was like 12 or 13 clicks for each of those beds. See how perfect they are next to each other? And then I'm breaking that one. And what that did was it made the other bed disappear. And notice I'm using this as kind of my alignment piece to make sure that it looks like it is behind the headboard, because I don't want the headboard on these beds to show. Oh, I forgot to destroy that block. And then I can kind of do the same thing over here. And yeah, should work like a charm. So once I get this repaired, I'm checking this one side first. Yep, you don't see the bed frame on the other bed anymore, or the I should say the stained mattress. And now we have full coverage on that bed. So the one catch with doing it this way is, that bed is going to stay on that foundation the way you found it. You could put it on a rug though too, and move it around that way. So this was a bed merge I had done recently. This is a combination of 3 beds and some stash boxes, but this really, it looks super complicated. It didn't take me but maybe 5 minutes or so to figure out when I was doing it. Now it doesn't take me any time at all. So with this bed, I'm able to take these military cots, right? And then kind of move them over. Now, you saw in the beginning part of the tutorial where you can just, slide them inside of each other, right? So that makes this merge pretty easy to do. I'm just going to destroy that one. And then I'm going to add this next military cot over through there. Make sure that it's lined up. I'm trying to eyeball the feet down there to make sure that there's a little bit of overhang. Yeah, and that looks pretty good. See, I'm using the feet as kind of as like a guide to make sure that they're it's where it needs to be. So I'm going to move that over just a touch. And it might take a little finagling to get it to be lined up perfectly. Yeah, it needs to come back some too. There, that should be good. Alright, then it's just going to be a matter of merging this down into itself. Like so. We get our low pressure plate here. Again, I'm not doing anything like groundbreaking here. Like, I'm literally just stacking them on top of each other. And the reason why I do this with this bed is because I don't like the stained yellow. I think it's a little bold. But what I do like is I like the headboard on that yellow bed, and I like the pillows that come up through it. So without having to use chessboards, which take a lot of budget, I can just kind of merge this thing down. And I get all these free pillows out of this. Yeah, come down a little bit more. See, I'm kind of looking at how the sheets come out. I want to make sure that the yellow sheets don't pop through, but I do want it to be made. So I think that came out pretty good. But you can see there's yellow popping out in the front a little bit. I could have moved it down some, but I didn't want to because I wanted to get those pillows, right? So, like, you could technically leave it like that. And the trick we're doing here, I don't show this bed, but it's going to be a very similar process. See how I'm using stash boxes here? I'm going to do a very similar thing with this bed. That was just more for an idea. So what we're going to do is, now that we have our, our base bed ready to go, I'm going to do the same thing I'd done in the past, which is I'm just going to put it on top of a stash box. I could have moved the stash box into a little bit more if I wanted to, so that way, I could put it up against the wall in the back, but I'm doing this just to kind of show you. And then what I'm going to do here, I'm kind of going to work through this pretty quickly. So I'm lining it up with the sides here just to make sure that when I put these in, they're going to be kind of straight and true. And then I have that little box. You see the box that I had destroyed? I'm using that as kind of a guide. So we're going to just try and make sure that that's pretty close to that now. Yeah. Looks pretty solid. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just start breaking these things now. Once I get them to where I want them to be lined up. You're not going to see them through that part of the bed yet, and that's fine. You don't want to yet because you still have that giant headboard. These ones are going to be guides. I don't necessarily need to keep them because, again, they're not going to really impact one way or the other. But what I'm doing is I'm breaking them so that way I can run more of these down the side here. And for each side that I do, so that way I don't have to go back and redo the whole thing, I'm double checking to make sure, see how that one pops out and that one doesn't. I'm making sure that that these are going to look correct before I keep moving on, because I don't want to do the whole thing to then find out that it's like all jacked up. And this part's just a little bit tedious, that's all. Again, this isn't anything that's like super difficult. This isn't like a trying to get walls to merge into pre-existing objects like you guys have seen me done 100 times. And that's the key with a lot of this decor stuff. A couple of my friends often ask me, like, how do you move through a build so fast? Because I can do, now I've gotten so good that I feel like I can knock out a bed or I should say an entire camp in like, 6 to 8 hours for like a kind of one that's not super difficult in a super difficult location. And part of that is finding these really cool little tricks to be able to knock out, like, say, a bed or kitchen countertops or, like a living room, and I can do that fairly quickly now. And that's through little decor tricks like this. Find that item. Whether most of my camps, the kitchen is like a huge key area. So I'll make sure that is like heavily decorated, and then I'll save. What is this? This whole bed's gonna cost me what, like 2% of my budget maybe, when I'm all said and done. So if you notice when I was pulling those up right there, it's basically to cover up that yellow. And then what I'm going to do, now that I know that it's lined up right, I'm going to put this last box up here. And then I'm just going to pull all those other boxes that I destroyed up just a touch. Remember, I don't need the back ones, right? I don't care. And even if I did, they were still poking through the bed in the back. So, like, I still had wiggle room even if I wanted to keep them there for whatever reason. Then I just need to bring this middle one up a little bit. And I probably brought it up just a touch too far at the end of the day. I didn't have to bring it up quite as far. I could have gone back a few pixels. But I mean, overall, you'll get the idea of the result here. And I'm just pulling these last ones up. And then I can repair all. And the goal here was to have where the sheets on that bed were still overhanging on these stash boxes, but you no longer saw the orange. See how that looks? I think that looks really nice. Alright, so this is a day bed that I've done several times in the past. I like this bed for small spaces, or if for some reason you can't put your bed like in the center of your room, you need to put it up against the wall, right? So the way I figured this out was I was looking for materials that kind of looked similar, and that texture on the bed looks very similar to the texture on the couch. I mean, it's really close. So this is super easy to do. All I'm going to do is put it on top, and I'm just going to merge it down. Once I get some alignment there at least. And that's kind of that part to check where the arms of the couch are going in. Now the one downside to this bed is that you do see the other side of the arms on this. So typically I have nightstands and things like that kind of sit over on the side there. I probably could have merged it down one more click because the one pillow is still sticking out over there, but I think you get the point. You get that nice backing, and look, I mean, it's almost a perfect match there. And you can use these big cabinets if you want. They'll hide a little bit more, but All honesty, the small ones work just fine, the small versions of these, or you can pick any one that you like, and that should work too. You can also make them like stack them back to where they're like thicker if you want to hide it a little bit more. Honestly, I don't even bother hiding it all that much anymore. I think it adds a little bit of character to the room. And then another cool thing you can do here, which is when I need to add a little accent lighting, because sometimes the beds end up being a little on the dark side for whatever reason. I know that sounded weird. So what I will do is I'll put like a little stuffy on here, and then I'll put a little light in there. And then because of where it sits, notice that the on the front versus the back, this stuffed animal is actually going down to the level of the couch, so you don't have to worry about it floating up on top of the bed where the legs might not be meeting it. And then you can just place it there, and then you get a little extra light and a little extra decor. And this bed altogether, if you don't count the tables over there, that cost me 4 budget, which is not very much. That's 0.8% of my budget. So this is fun. I have not done this before, but I was playing around with both these beds because I think they're about the same shape. So there's a couple of cool things you can do with this, right? You can have it to where you're seeing more hearts, or you can have it to where you're seeing more castle. And it all really just comes down to the way that you use your stash box when you're destroying this bed. So as you see right here, I'm just loading up the one bed on top of the stash box, and I'm going to merge it down. And by the level and the positioning of where I merge it, you get 2 different effects, and we'll get to see that here in a minute. So what I'm doing at first, I'm seeing how far up it is over the castle bed, or the princess bed, I guess it's called. Looks like a castle, right? I'm just making sure it's straight as well. But already I think that looks better than having each bed by themselves. Make sure that that's good to go. Yeah. So from here, I'm going to fix it up a little bit more. And you'll see what I'm talking about with the like castle, like more castle or more of the heart bed. The reason for this merge is because A, you can break up the fact that it looks too much like a castle, and also you get those really nice pillows, the blue pillows. But then you also can get a little bit of that headboard in there too. So right now I'm looking at that headboard and I'm making sure that that part's aligned. But you're gonna see here now, I'm gonna drop it down just a little bit more. And now let's see what we can do. Break my little stash box. Move my bed into place. And notice I pulled the headboard up front a little bit on this one. So I still get the really cool like pink and red and all of that. So it's this one is a little bit more of the heart bed, right? So now I'm going to drop it down another 2 clicks. And watch the difference on how this bed looks. It's subtle, but it's enough that you can get 2 different designs just from literally dropping down that the heart bed a little bit further. So now, look, I have the headboard. Now I've got to fix that headboard in the back a little bit. But notice I've got pink sheets now. The headboard's going to get fixed, and you'll get to see what that looks like. So you get more of the castle, and it looks a little bit more integrated. So it's just a matter of if you want heart sheets, or you want like the pattern that goes on the princess castle bed. I'm really bad at saying what that is. Just make sure that it's aligned just right. A little bit more. Notice it's probably just a touch crooked is what it is. So I'm going to fix that right now by moving the pink bed and like angling it a little bit more. And that's it. This whole merge is just based off of these micro adjustments. Again, if you do this on top of a rug, you'll be able to move the whole bed and everything without any real issues. But look, now you see more of the castle in the back, and then you get the hearts and stuff. I like that way a little bit better, but like it's dealer's choice, right? It depends on how it fits your room. But I think that really makes that bed just a little bit more. So this one, we're back to a super simple one, okay? You just want to add a pillow to a bed. Like you can go get a pillow from the wild, and use a chessboard, or you can just find something in your inventory, right? So like the stool right here, because it's a white stool, even if it doesn't go perfectly into the merge, like it's not gonna like the red is not gonna be flush with the bed, but because of the white, it covers it up slightly, and you'll see here in a second. See, it pops out a little bit. I can go down one more click if I wanted to. But yeah, see right there, and then I go down one more. Now, if I used a different bench, you would see some of that coloration. Because it's white, you don't see any of it. That one's really easy. This is one I did too. So if you're looking to do like a floor bed, or like a I would imagine like a hostel or like something like that, you could use a bed like this. So I use that mausoleum bed, and then I merge the cot down into it. And then what I can do is I can just use the foundation merging, which, I have a tutorial on that. And there's other tutorials on how to do this. Basically, looking at it, I'm dragging it down while it's green. And then what that does is it makes that foundation shoot back up, which then causes this merge. And then I can just grab it and pull it down right like that, and put it into position if I want to, right? So that one's super easy. We're going to do a couple other beds where we use foundation merges, but first I want to do something really cool. Now look how integrated that hammock looks into the tree. So again, this setup, super easy. All we need to do, I only do a slight foundation merge on this. Notice I'm only pulling it down that far, but then I lose that whole bottom side, that wooden side of the hammock. And you can do this in the ground with regular trees as well. It's a little trickier. The regular trees are not quite as friendly as this. You'll see what I'm talking about because I have to kind of rotate the trees to get them as close as I do. But still, I think it's worthwhile doing. Because it's nice when the hammock looks like it's built into the trees, because that's how you would do a lot of hammocks, unless they're sitting like on your patio. Like if they're out in like your garden or something, you'd probably want them tied between the trees. I think that looks cool. So anyways, I'm just getting my trees in position now. My hammock has already been moved down enough, right? So you don't see that wooden bar at the bottom. And now it's just a matter of getting these trees in place. And it hides most of that wooden bar. I think that looks really dynamite. And this is something you can do to kind of zhuzh up your outside area. And yeah, I think it looks good. Now, this one's a little easier. And it doesn't look like I did much here, but because it's subtle. So what I did here is these lights do add just a touch of accent lighting, and I also like the fog that comes out. I use this in a build which I may or may not have released by this time, where it's in kind of a cave situation, and I want it to look like there's a little oxygen coming from my beds, right? So what I did is I'm just merging the two beds together, and one goes down a little lower than the other to hide the pillow. But then it creates this effect of a little bit more of a headboard in the front, and then I get that extra lighting in there. And that one's super easy to do again. And a lot of beds will fit into each other. So like you have the big beds and then the little beds. These little beds, they fit well into each other. So I can do the same thing with this heart-shaped bed. It'll go down in here, and then I can just get the covers of that bed. And these are just things that you guys can be thinking about when you're doing these builds like this. Like, how can I combine some resources to give like just a more creative look, or make somebody look at something that maybe they hadn't thought of or seen before. So this is the couch bed that I was talking about before. I've seen multiple scrappy builders do this in the past. Milne, I think, might have been the first one I saw with this. Could be wrong there. I know last one left who used to build for my channel has done this. So essentially what we're trying to do, I could have done it kind of sloppy there and just slapped the bed on top of there, and it wouldn't have sat correctly on that bed. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it on top of this mat right here. You'll never see that mat again once we get this thing in position, but this gives me a little bit more flexibility on where this like sleeping bed is going to go. This is a great couch to do this on too because it's thick. It hides a little bit, so you don't have like some of it protruding. And this is a couch you can get in game, as is, I believe, the that sleeping bag. I believe you can get the princess sleeping bag in game as well, and so is the mat. So yeah, pretty easy to do for those scrappy builders. And I have another scrappy bed for you guys as well. So here's one where I did a merge into two beds. Now, I could have probably done this a little bit. I know this is kind of weird to say. I could have done this scrappy bed merge a little cleaner. But you'll see what I'm doing here. And it just probably could use a touch more accuracy for the example. So first and foremost, I get out the canopy bed. This is like the Hunter's or Huntsman's canopy bed. And I'm using a thicker mat. And the reason I'm using a thicker mat on this is it gets me past that protrusion through the mat on the post. And then I'm taking the Raider bed, and I'm also putting that on a mat that's a little thicker. And I'm just trying to line it up with the posts, as you see there. And then I merge them down together. Now, you're like, oh, well, you'll see those blue mats. But if you merge it down a couple extra clicks, you won't see them at all. You'll see here in a second what I'm talking about. But those blue mats will actually, they'll sit down below the surface of the foundation. And it's just about getting that perfect sweet spot height to where you're seeing some of the blanket from one bed onto the other, and you're getting extra decor out of this without just slapping just your standard run-of-the-mill bed in there. And you can zhuzh it up with extra things too, right? So, and that's how that came out. Again, the headboards, or the post came out a little crooked there, but I think that bed came out really cool. And this is one anybody could do. So somebody asked me about this the other day. I don't know who it was. They asked me if I've done this desk before, and I have. I think the last time I did this for like a build that actually didn't do very well on my channel. It was like a cityscape style build. What I'm doing here, I like this desk because it kind of matches the size of that bunk bed. And I want to cover up the mattress on that bed. If I just use the flat, how thin this desk is, you'll see the green on that. There are other ways I could have done this too, but I just decided to be super easy since this was the first thing that was in my menu, like in my recent used items, right? So basically I'm just making sure that they're aligned. Again, this isn't one that I did super perfectly, but you'll get the point here. Because I do have just a touch of overhang on that one side. But again, no matter, you'll see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to merge that down into the desk a little bit, like so. And this will cover up that mattress, which we'll see here in a minute. And I'm just going to add some decor items to it. Just some items that I had been playing with. Nothing fancy. I do like that little lamp. It does add a little bit of light without flooding the space. And now I'm going to get this bunk bed out. The mattresses on the bunk bed are about average thickness. So, when I added this little overhang to the front of the desk, it'll cover up the mattress no problem. And then you just kind of set it on top of there, and you merge the whole thing down. See, if I had used that desk, and as thin as it is, you would have still seen that mattress come through. This covers that whole bit there. And you could use any item to do that, in all honesty. There's a lot of different ways I could have Could have done that and fixed that up. And now we have the desk. And it's decorated. And then what we can do now too, and this kind of goes in theme here. Notice I have a chair there now. So the way I got the chair in is I just destroyed the bed. And then once I did that, I was able to push a chair in there. This is literally that easy. And that's it. Now I've got a nice little desk bed, so it's dual purpose, kind of like IKEA furniture. So the next two that I do here are also super simple. Sometimes when we're looking at these beds, we're like, oh man, I would never use this bed. It looks kind of hideous, right? And this is one of those that I don't use very often. But if you were looking for a kid's room and you didn't want to just have it be the standard sized bunk bed, you can merge this down in the foundation, which we've done in the past here with another bed in this tutorial where we've merged it down in the foundation. So we're going to merge this puppy down, and you can kind of see what that looks like. Notice I'm just dragging it down into the until it snaps back up. A little bit more. There we go. Yeah. And I think that actually makes it look really custom. You could almost borderline make that like a crib kind of bed. And that's not the only bed that you would do that with either. I'm going to show you another one here in a second. But I think that looks cool. I like the way that looks. And you could decorate like a whole playroom around that. And it's not taking up all of the space if you wanted to use some more wall space there. And then I also like this bed for that as well. Actually, this bed I barely ever see it used. And that's because it is kind of big and obnoxious and a little bit difficult to work with. But we can merge this down too. When you merge these beds down, you can also break them once they're down, and then you can actually like put other beds and stuff inside of them too. I don't do that in this example, but like it really does open up possibilities when you're not dealing with all that extra space. And I'm obviously for this tutorial, I did not eat my Wheaties for making this merge easier for myself. Basically, I'm just merging it down to where you don't see the ladder anymore. Oh, and see, you could also go too far with it, right? That is definitely a thing. So you gotta be really careful with that. Otherwise, you're just gonna redo the whole thing. I'm lining the feet up those posts where the stairs are with like the line on there to make sure it's straight. You don't have to, obviously, if you want it to be like catty corner or something like that. This time I'm going to be a little bit more gentle. Hopefully I won't merge the whole thing down. A little bit more. There. Now I'm playing with fire. There we go. And now I have a more unique looking kid's bed. Now this is a bed that a lot of people have, but like not used in this purpose. So it's going to give your room a more unique look. And so these are some of those beds in practice that I had just shown you. If you just kind of, and I think I was talking to somebody yesterday about this, you put two Legos together, you're making something new, right? So if you start just taking the beds that you currently have and looking for new ways to spice it up, you can come up with all kinds of really cool ideas. So for those of you who enjoyed this tutorial, like it, thank you so much for all of your support. I really appreciate what you guys do to help me out with my channel. Y'all stay blessed out there, stay safe, and have a great day. Thank you.